Welcome to Fascinating, a Star Trek podcast. Episode 83, The Search for Spock.
In this week's movie, a renegade Klingon crew hunts for the secret of Genesis, while an intervention from Sarek leaves Kirk and his closest allies needing to hijack a starship in order to save McCoy and bring peace to Spock's eternal soul. But can they complete the mission? Or will their Klingon adversary prove too powerful?
You're suffering from a Vulcan mind meld, Doctor.
That green-blooded son of a bitch. It's his revenge for all those arguments he lost.
Good evening, Ian. How are you?
I'm not too bad. Winning arguments, not needing to take any revenge.
That'll be a first.
Okay. I like the fact they've upgraded the language from green-blooded hobgoblin to green-blooded son of a bitch now that they're in a movie.
Yeah, there is a few naughty words.
Ooh, one or two. Take advantage of that. Of course, people say that it's only modern Star Trek that does this.
Do they? Does modern Star Trek?
Yeah, there's swear words in the ones that are on Netflix. It's like, oh, Star Trek never did this before.
But not in the TV shows.
Which TV shows?
There are modern ones. Next Generation.
Yeah, they didn't. They were back in the 80s and the 90s. What the ones that are out now. But these movies out in the 80s had it.
Did it swear in the, what's it, Discovery? What's it? Did it?
Yeah.
Nudity scenes?
The Naked Klingon at one point, yeah.
Talking about nudity, do you think if this was a porn parody that the title would be The Search for...
No, stop, no. Yeah, probably, but...
Do you think that exists?
I would imagine it probably does.
I'm half tempted now to have a look. Yeah, it must be. That's what I thought anyway. In fact, this was my working title. This is my note-taking title, so if I do let it slip...
That's just you've got a folder on your computer that's called that now.
Interesting ideas for
places to look. This might not be a popular point of view, but I preferred this to Wrath of Khan.
So did I.
In my opinion, it's much more like a regular season episode, but with a bit of movie budget behind it.
I agree. Just good fun.
Okay, well, we can end the podcast there then. That's fine, we've agreed.
Next week. Is
it just me, or was there a bit in the middle there where Sarek bones a teenage Spock?
We'll get to that. That's precisely my note. Yep.
Yeah.
I think. In fact, I think I write. Has she just banged a kid?
They've just slipped that in there.
Mm-hmm.
Or he did.
Depends what state they're in.
Well,
a state of unrest.
A state of not being able to consent.
Well, here's the... No, listen, we'll get to it when we get to it.
Okay, we'll get to it when we get to it. Okay, social media.
Yeah.
If people want to keep in touch with us, we're at Trek Podcast on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. You can go to astartrekpodcast.com where there's a post up for each and every episode that we do, or you can find the show on YouTube, assuming the movie episodes get past the censors. We've not tried that yet.
We have not. No.
We will have by the time you hear this.
What tends to happen is they make us remove all the... Well, either that or re-edit it. We can't be bothered. I'm not re-editing
They
it.
normally just let it go, but once they made us take the clips out.
They took one out in Jonathan Creek.
Yeah. That was music. That wasn't...
It was music, yeah. Part over the clip, yeah. At it.
Absolutely at it. We don't even monetize it.
No.
Anyhow, shall we get on with the film?
Let's crack on. We begin with a recap of Spock's death. The funeral and the coffin being catapulted.
Quite an extended recap. It's as if they assume that people won't have seen the previous movie.
A bit like Rocky 2.
Very sort of hand-holding.
Mm-hmm. Spock's death reminded me a little bit. I was expecting it would have been good if there was a Midnight Express scene.
Okay.
Have you seen that?
No. Famous
film, famous scene about drug trafficking, and it ends up jailed in, I think it's Turkey, I'm not sure. Anyway, his girlfriend at the time comes to visit, and there's a glass partition.
Right.
And I think it's been parodied in other movies where she rubs herself against the glass.
Felt like Spock did in this.
It would have been good, yeah, if he'd done that.
That would have been incredibly weird.
Yeah.
As his skin flakes off from the radiation.
I don't know why I'm thinking about this week. It seems to have sex on the brain.
Yeah, who knows why. There's some interesting names in the cast list that pops up as the opening credits are rolling.
What, you got to do it just now?
Well, I'm not going to go into the trivia, but it was interesting to note right from the outset you're going to have Mark Leonard in this. You're going to have Merritt Buttrick's back as David. Mm-hmm. We've got a new Savick. We've got Christopher Lloyd.
Yeah,
That wouldn't have been that exciting back in the day.
It wouldn't have been, but I couldn't get over... to me, it was just, there's Doc Brown as the baddie. He sounds the same.
Well, that's his voice.
Yeah, that's true, but you can put on a different voice if you're playing an
Done
alien.
Doc Brown yet?
No, but he's doing the same voice.
I did think he didn't sound very Klingon.
No.
Yeah, to be fair.
That wasn't really a criticism.
Yeah.
I'll
This is an iconic sound, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, we see the Enterprise come into view and there's a personal log.
Yeah, they are almost home after repairing the damage. So I take it this is a follow-on.
Immediate follow-on, yeah. They don't mention Khan's name at any point, but they're following straight on.
Yeah. Yet Kirk feels quite uneasy. He doesn't know why, but thinks it's because the Enterprise is empty with the trainees reassigned and Saavik and David are off exploring Genesis. I mean, I've got a guess at why he might feel uneasy. One of his best friends and some others have been recently killed because of his actions.
He goes on to say that Spock's death is like an open wound, like he's left part of himself behind. There's no mention of Carol, who appears to have vanished.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously couldn't afford BB Besh.
Or Kirstie Alley.
Well, she was Saavik previously, yeah. That's been redone.
Mm-hmm.
Sulu, as we go onto the bridge of the Enterprise, reports that they're 2 hours away from their destination.
Before Kirk tells the somewhat humbled Chekhov to take over Spock's science station.
Yes, I think Chekhov's quite uneasy about the assignment.
Yeah, you're stepping in a dead man's shoes.
Yeah.
As usual.
Uhura has no response to her requests relating to Genesis, but Kirk notes that's quite odd, and we do see some battle damage at the back of the bridge at this point. There's scorch marks on the walls, things like that.
From engineering, Scotty tells him they will be fully automated by the time they arrive, but that a full refit will take about 8 weeks, though he can do it in 2 if he doesn't have that long.
And they take something that's been previously implied and just say it out loud here, where Kirk has a conversation with Scotty about overestimating the time required to do any work.
Listen, that's what the best of them do.
It is, but I don't think they need to say it out loud like this as if we're children. Anyway, yes, this is how he maintains his reputation as a miracle worker.
Kirk gets up to go to his quarters when he is engaged by a new crew member who asks if a ceremony is planned when they arrive. That's quite presumptuous.
Well, they defeated Khan. They saved the world. Potentially.
Have we seen a ceremony before? Like a celebration of their work? We haven't, have we?
No, I've never seen them.
So this is maybe the first in a number of occasions in this movie that they have potentially, or definitely ripped off Star Wars.
You think so?
Yeah.
I think it's just trying to show the contrast between Kirk, who feels sad about what happened, and then a younger officer who maybe didn't know Spock, who feels like they've had a great victory and deserve a hero's reception.
Yeah, I think they're doing that as well.
Yeah. Kirk says they've paid for this in blood, they might as well have a party, and then leaves. Just a bit grim.
He goes into the turbo lift, and I think he struggles to keep himself together at this point.
In my note it says Kirk looks unhappy. We then get an exterior shot of a small red ship as 2 human crew and a woman who might be Romulan.
Yeah, well, I've got a buxom female.
She's called Valkyris, or Valkyris. And she tells the concerned crew that she's working with not to worry, that Krug is here. Or Krug. She communicates with him, and a large Klingon ship decloaks right above them.
What does she tell him?
So we see Krug pet his Targ or dog or whatever it is.
Alien pet monster dog.
And talks to her in Klingon as she transmits data, including images of Kirk and possibly the Genesis data.
However, I think she is expecting a compliment or some sort of thank you when she remarks that she's seen this data already.
Yes, and I think that my interpretation was there's some sort of relationship between these two. It's not just a case she thinks it's a personal relationship between herself and Krug.
Did you read that into it, yeah?
It's in the trivia and stuff like that, so I don't know if that's been implied or if it's how it's worked out. Anyway, he obviously doesn't feel much for her because he brings his ship around and blows it up.
Yep.
And that's the end of it.
Pretty much, yeah. He then sets them off on a course for the Federation neutral zone and orders a worried crew member to feed the salivating creature.
Indeed, it looks quite angry.
I thought that would come into play later in the movie. It doesn't really.
Well, it gets killed.
Yeah, I thought maybe it would attack or something else.
Yeah, maybe able to kill a Klingon or something. Yeah, but no.
No, they are Klingons.
Yeah, no. Well, one of his colleagues, I thought he might set it on him or something.
All right. No, I thought they would have set it on one of the Federation.
Ah, that's possible. Over at Space Dock, the Enterprise returns home and they're welcomed, and as they come in, they see a new ship sitting in dock.
Yeah, they marvel on the viewer, or through the viewer, at this new starship. I think it's the Excelsior.
Indeed.
Which is apparently ready to be trialled.
We get a shot of who is obviously Janice Rand watching the Enterprise arrive with all its damage, and she looks quite concerned.
Yeah, it's not mentioned that that's who it is, but
she's credited as woman in cafeteria, but I think it's Janice. It's definitely the same actress.
Yeah. At the same time, Sulu, he claims that this new ship's meant to have trans-warp drives. I'm not sure what that is. Scotty's not that impressed, or he pretends not to be.
Indeed, and at this point, Chekhov reports there's a life form in Spock's quarters, and Uhura tells them there's a security breach.
Yeah, this is quite a piece of news because Kirk had ordered his room to be sealed.
Yes, that's the security breach. It's not someone's come on board, it's someone's broken into his quarters.
So Kirk jogs down there, little jog on.
Yep.
And he finds two security guards waiting outside with their weapons drawn. He enters the darkened room and is shocked to hear Spock's voice coming from a man seated in the shadows.
Jim, help me. You left me on Genesis. Why did you do that? Help me.
Bones? What the hell are you doing? Have you lost your mind?
Help me, Jim. Take me home.
Bones, we are. We are home.
Then perhaps it's not too late. Climb the steps, Jim. Climb the steps of Mount Saleya.
Mount Saleya? Bones, Mount Saleya is on Vulcan. We're home. On Earth.
Remember.
Admiral, docking is completed. Starfleet Commander Morrow is on his way for inspection.
Uhura, get the medics down here. Get them now.
It's quite remarkable that we hear the voices of both Spock and Mufasa coming from McCoy.
Mufasa? Oh, is that him from The Lion King?
Yeah.
Okay.
You remember who you are, Simba.
Right. Very good.
Yeah.
Morrow.
The Admiral.
Yes, we're at the inspection. He tells them they'll be receiving the highest commendations as well as extended shore leave. Everyone except for Scotty.
Yeah.
And the obvious reason for that is that they know what Scotty gets up to if he's given shore leave and they don't want any more sex crimes committed.
No, so they cover it over by giving him a job to do.
Yeah. There's no job there. We need you to
fix this brand new ship that's got nothing wrong with it. Yeah.
Can I not get in for shore leave? No.
There's a nice bar. No, Scotty. He's been promoted to Captain of Engineering and he tries to decline.
He wants to refit the Enterprise and also commit sex murders, but is bluntly told there will be no refit.
Indeed, the Enterprise is being decommissioned.
Yeah, Kirk doesn't understand. And even though the ship itself is 20 years old...
That's over that. It must be nearly 30 years old.
Well, it's still over 20.
Yeah, no, it's not your mistake. They do say 20 in the film, but it must be much older than that.
Sure. He explains he wanted to take her back to Genesis.
Yes, but since they've been away, Genesis has become a galactic controversy, and until the Federation Council makes some kind of ruling, they're not even allowed to talk about it.
No, it's to be considered a forgotten subject, a quarantined planet.
A bit like in the Menagerie, the planet that Pike went to, that they're not allowed to talk about or visit.
Very much so.
In fact, the whole movie's a bit like the Menagerie with, breaking the rules to save your friend.
Yeah. Back on the Klingon ship, they are consuming the Genesis data through the medium of video Kirk.
Yes, it's basically a presentation by Kirk on PowerPoint.
They are clearly in awe of its capabilities and the potential they could harness, the potential for evil.
They talk English now, although it's, I think, implied that they're speaking Klingon, but we're hearing it in English. Even
Is
though
that okay?
we heard them in Klingon before. I don't know how this works.
Yeah. Well, that's a question I've asked before. Like, how come every alien speaks English?
We just hear it's English because we have a universal translator.
Right.
But sometimes we don't.
Sure.
Just for effect.
Yeah.
Yes, Krug now wants to go to this Genesis planet to seize the secret, even though the emissaries of the Klingon Empire are bargaining for peace with the Federation. Obviously he doesn't approve of peace.
No, he's a maverick.
Yeah, he just wants victory and war. Glory for the Empire.
On the screen, we have a caption reading Stardate 8210.3.
A small ship arrives at the Genesis planet and enters orbit, but none of the crew look particularly familiar.
Is it small? This is the Grissom.
Yes.
Is it small, yeah?
It's smaller than the planet.
But is it small? Yeah, of course.
It looks fairly small to me.
Is it not roughly the same size as Enterprise?
I don't think so. I think it's smaller.
Right, okay. The captain hands over responsibility to the is it now Dr. David Marcus, or was he always a doctor?
He was always a doctor.
Okay.
Captain Esteban.
Who, with a proud smile, asks the new Savick to begin scanning and tells her this is where the fun begins.
We should say it is the same Savick, it's just being portrayed by a different actor.
That's right. Not Kirstie Alley.
No, that's her name, not Kirstie Alley. Not Kirstie, that's what they called her.
Yeah.
She says that David is very human, like his father, which is showing a great handling of genetics.
And also a massive amount of exposition in case you haven't seen the
previous movie, yeah.
She starts to scan.
Yes, we see the very sort of Commodore 64 graphics as they scan the planet sectors. And there's all kinds of weather down there. And then they locate Spock's torpedo and a life sign.
Oof.
And it flashes, life sign, life sign.
David suggests beaming it up, but is it rightly reminded that won't be happening until they know it's safe? I mean, you can't just start beaming. We've seen what happens before if you beam things up.
Yeah. You'd think they could beam it up into some sort of quarantined area, but no. Anyhow, they're going to beam down if the captain will allow it, but he needs a little persuasion.
Yeah, I think David begs for the opportunity.
Indeed.
Now, we return to Kirk's apartment.
Well, some kind of lounge or apartment, some sort of area at the starbase.
Is it? I thought it was Kirk's.
I don't think it's his own house.
All right, okay.
Maybe it is, but I didn't think so.
In any case, Kirk, Sulu, Uhura and Chekhov have gathered to toast Spock and discuss what the future has in store for them and the Enterprise.
What did you think of their outfits?
Casual.
Casual to the point of absurdity.
Well, yeah. It reminded me a little bit. This, you won't know what I'm talking about here. Some people will. Hopefully the cool kids will. National Lampoon's European Vacation.
Okay.
Where the Griswolds, I think it's in Italy maybe, but they go to some, they buy some designer gear.
High-waisted tracksuit bottoms and stuff like
It's just crazy looking. It's futuristic leather jackets with big shoulder pads and things. And,
puffy suit.
And apparently they look and feel very cool. Anyway, that sort of reminded me of the get-up they've got on here.
Kirk breaks the news at this point to Sulu that the Enterprise is being decommissioned and he can't get an answer on whether the crew is going to be kept together and given another ship.
He also explains that McCoy is okay, but doped up with an official diagnosis of exhaustion.
Just then the doorbell rings.
But it is not Scotty, as expected, who makes an appearance, but Sarek, who wants to speak to him alone about his son.
Ambassador, I would have come to Vulcan to express my deepest sympathies.
Spare me your human platitudes, Kirk. I have been to your government. I've seen the Genesis information and your own report.
Then you know how bravely your son met his death.
Why did you leave him on Genesis? Spock trusted you, and you denied him his future.
My son, a future?
Only his body was in death, Kirk, and you were the last one to be with him.
Yes, I was.
Then you must know that you should have come with him to Vulcan.
But why?
Because he asked you to. He entrusted you with his very essence, with everything that was not of the body. He asked you to bring him to us, and to bring that which he gave you, his Katra. his living spirit.
Sir. Your son meant more to me than you can know. I'd have given my life if it would have saved his. Believe me when I tell you, he made no request of me.
He would not have spoken of it openly.
Then how was
Kirk, I must have your thoughts. May I join your mind?
Kirk agrees to this proposal.
Yeah, before we get to that, I'm sure I made the point last week. What Sarek says there is that you left him on Genesis. They didn't leave him. They fired him out of the ship in a coffin to Genesis. And I'm sure I said, why not bring him back and speak to the family? You made this decision just to fire him out into space.
He was heavily irradiated. It probably wasn't safe to keep him on board.
You could have kept him in the chamber. He was dead, and that was all. That was fine.
Yeah, but they would have de-irradiated the chamber.
Okay, you could have left him in space, floating, and then come back for him.
Yeah, or just fire him onto the planet.
I'm not so sure. It's a bad decision. You just don't get rid of bodies.
Well,
like
if
that.
he was a sailor. Oh, I made this point last week.
You did, yeah. Okay. So, Sarek, he mind melds with Kirk.
And then apologises because he realises that Spock's Catra is not there and assumes, therefore, it has been lost.
However, Kirk is sure that Spock would have found a way to communicate with him. And then, through the miracle of the flight recorder,
they've got the last movie.
Yes. We see that he managed to pass on a message to McCoy when he pinched him out.
It's a bit surprising that this didn't occur to Kirk before they watched the videos. When McCoy's got speaking in Spock's voice, talking about going to Vulcan,
yes,
acting a bit strange, but he needs to see it happen on the video before he can. I mean, they could have even written it, just even a slightly different line instead of, I'm sure he would have found a way to. He could have said, I might have an idea, we need to look at the footage or something like that.
Yeah, he's a bit slow on the uptake.
Anyhow, Sarek says to bring both men to Mount. Why do they need Spock's body? I don't understand this.
I think we can discuss this a bit later. I've got questions around this, which I don't really understand. Maybe because it's a lot of nonsense.
Yeah, but if you're assuming it's a dead body,
yeah,
what's the purpose of it being there? Does it need to be there? I don't know. Anyway,
what was Sarek hoping to achieve at this point? He doesn't know necessarily about the Genesis machine.
No, I think he wants to preserve Spock's Catra, so I think they can be placed into physical objects.
Is this like a Harry Potter Horcrux?
Yes. So in a similar way, instead of it being in McCoy's head, like, I'm not going to give you Harry Potter spoilers. Oh no.
Okay. Oh yeah, but see, this is what I don't get. This is only Spock passed this on to McCoy before he was dead, so it's not his entire soul, his being.
Yeah, it's his memories up to a point, but then
it's not a part of Spock.
We hear later on he remembers his last words.
Yeah,
which he said after he passed it on to McCoy. Yeah, but then he was in McCoy, hearing it from McCoy's perspective, maybe. Yeah,
but my biggest issue is this is what McCoy has is a dilution, is only only partially.
Who can say
his spirit, unless that from the partial element you can expand it to fill. I don't know. So you think that Sarek wants this to keep it in a vessel? Or?
Yeah, some kind of either to release it in some special place, maybe.
Right. Fine.
It's all a bit vague at this point.
In any case,
back on Genesis.
Well, you said that Sarek has told them to bring both bodies to Vulcan.
Yes.
And he accepts it will be difficult, but is confident in Kirk, and he swears that he will manage it.
Yes, and it should bring peace to both men. Meanwhile, on Genesis, Saavik and David have had permission to beam down from the Grissom, which is named obviously after Gus Grissom, who you will remember died in the tragic Apollo accident prior to the moon missions.
What? Okay.
I think Apollo 9,
right?
The one that blew up in simulation.
Yes.
The ship says there's radiation, or someone on board the ship says there's radiation, so be careful. But they find Spock's tube and some tiny, tiny creatures.
Well, they're not that tiny. They used to be tiny, tiny creatures. They used to be microbes.
Yes, now they're maybe sort of earthworm size, slug size, yeah.
And Saavik, she stupidly asks how they could have evolved so quickly. Does she not know like what this Genesis device does. Like she's
been working on this for
Yeah.
at least 3 weeks now.
How can this have rapidly aged? It's a whole thing that.
Well, I think the part that they haven't figured out yet is that the planet's taking leaps. So instead of naturally evolving over a certain period, it's jumping forward, and then it's jumping forward again. We find this out later on.
No, we found that out in the last movie because the forest, the waterfalls. They said that themselves.
Yeah, but that was a single process. It took it from barren to lush, whereas this planet is now taking multiple leaps forward. And yeah,
okay.
But we find that out a wee bit later on. Anyhow, David opens Spock's tube, and there is a clear biblical reference here.
Is there?
That's like opening Jesus' tomb.
Ah, right,
he's
yeah.
gone and the grave clothes are there.
Yeah. Rolling away the Easter egg.
They roll away this, yes.
Yeah, all that remains is his body bag.
That's his dressing gown.
His burial robe.
Yes.
Body bag, isn't it really? That's what it is.
Didn't have a zip. There's a huge vibration at this time, and they hear screaming and head off to find out what it is.
Back at the Starfleet restaurant, Kirk unsuccessfully tries to convince Morrow to accept that Spock may have an eternal soul and that he should be allowed to go on a mission to save it.
He's told to stop being so emotional, but you get the impression that Kirk has a marble rolling.
This reminded me very much of the cliche of the captain and the cop. I can do this. No, you're off the case. Ignore it.
Yeah, you go freelance.
And he hands in his badge and his gun, and he does it himself anyway because it's one of his friends.
Yeah, that's the exact idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
On his way out, he tells Sulu and Chekhov that the official word is no, but he's going anyway, and they pledge to join him in this escapade.
We then head to the bar.
Oh, this scene is such a rip-off.
Well, I mean, okay, so just remember this. I am not a sci-fi person per se. I've seen Star Wars maybe in my entire life 3 times. But even when I saw this, it's a bar with weird creatures and it's a music playing, and the reason why McCoy is here, he's trying to get a ship to go on some sort of illegal
and the original
mission.
Version of the script that they didn't film, it ends in a bar fight as well, which would be even more so.
So this is just a rip-off of the Han Solo scene in Star Wars.
The only way it could be closer is if McCoy shoots this guy.
Yeah. So I mean, it's, what they're thinking.
I think it's a tribute to Star Wars. There's
a very fine, you get a tribute 20 years later, when it's a couple of years later and your class is competitors, start.
They're competing directly.
Well, I don't know. It's a very,
homage.
Very fine. I mean, yeah, okay. I mean, there've been plenty of incidents of musicians apparently homaging other people and they get taken to court for it.
Did you enjoy the tribbles showing up?
Yes, I noticed them. Yeah. Anyway, McCoy moseys on into this bar with lots of weird people and is clearly thinking a bit like Spock because he doesn't understand the waitress.
Well, first of all, he orders something that Spock would order, and then when the waitress says it's not your usual poison, he says it's illogical to order poison.
Poison, that would kill me.
Yeah.
Do you have any trivia on this, the waitress?
No, do you?
Yeah, just a small amount.
And you?
It's Dean Kane's mum.
Okay. Well, she obviously went on to do worse than she's done in this film.
Yeah, Dean Kane's dad.
Yeah. Well, Dean Kane is he's a right-wing conspiracy nut now, isn't he?
He is, yeah. I think he's a bit of a wrong'un.
He was good as Superman.
He was quite good in that, yeah. Not as good as Terry Hatcher. Wow.
That was a good series.
Yeah.
Saturday tea time.
Yeah.
Anyhow, a strange fellow at this point with...
Now, again, the second rip-off, this strange creature speaks like Yoda.
Yeah.
What?
Anyhow,
Come on.
He approaches McCoy and says he knows who he is, which McCoy notes puts him at a disadvantage.
They then argue over how much it's going to cost to get the ship.
Yeah.
And
this
where it's
guy's not
going.
very subtle, is he?
He's not. The voices are raised so much that a Federation security operative stops McCoy and offers him a ride home.
And McCoy tries to give him a nerve pinch.
It doesn't work. Yeah. I enjoyed that. Yeah. Again, that's a little bit like, have you seen, what's the Arnold, Last Action Hero?
No. I might have, but I don't remember.
Okay, where Arnold Schwarzenegger plays himself coming into the real world. So and what he does is he tries to break into a car by punching through the glass,
right.
And it doesn't work and it hurts his hand. And he's like, "What the hell?" So it's that sort of thing where this is meant to.
We flick back to Genesis where David and Savick are tracking this.
Yeah, should say just at the end of that scene, the security guard says, "We're taking you for a nice long rest." So he's going to be taken to the hospital wing or the
jail, maybe.
But he's got to be doped up anyway, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, back in Genesis.
It's just a quick scene. David and Savick still tracking this other life sign with Captain Esteban wondering what is going on.
Well, I think they report a second life form.
Yeah, well, the little bugs.
Well, the first
now
one.
whoever screamed
Yeah,
is the second.
sure. In this cell, Kirk is allowed to enter and is told by one of the guards that he's 2 minutes before they transfer him to the funny farm. This is meant to be in the future. Funny farm is not an appropriate term these days, and I wouldn't have thought...
Yeah, but I think the character's clearly a bit of a dick.
Oh yeah, he is, yeah.
So he maybe would you speak in those terms.
Yeah, sure. Kirk wakes him up and asks, I like that, how many fingers am I holding?
It's
Does
the Vulcan sign.
Yeah.
McCoy doesn't find that funny, and then we get the clip from the top of the show about the mind meld.
Yes, and he's been given a shot to try and balance this out a bit.
Meanwhile, Sulu takes out the guard, and Kirk comes out and takes out the second guard, and they escape just before backup arrives.
Is this when Sulu is referred to as Tiny?
Yes, which gets referenced in the 2009 Star Trek movie, although with Kirk.
Did it? Yes. Okay.
Yes, and like I said, yes, there's a fight ensues. They manage to escape through what looks like a cupboard, but presumably is a lift. This
whole scene reminded me of the A-Team when they used to break out Murdoch from the mental or the psychiatric hospitals.
Yeah, that's quite good. They signal Chekhov, and they hear back from him, so everything seems to be on track.
Where do we go next?
To the Excelsior, where Scotty is meeting the arrogant captain.
Yeah, we get a short sequence of Scotty up your shaft.
Yes, he's being patronised by the captain of the Excelsior and throws that in his general direction. This is
again another comparison. This is a little bit like the Blues Brothers, getting the band back together again. It's a scene of these all leaving their position, or even I'll tell you what. No,
it's a bit more like Ocean's 11 when they're all doing their little bits of the plan.
Yeah, or I would go for The Sting.
Right.
Where they all jack in their day jobs because they know there's a big plan. And
yeah, or that bit in any episode of Hustle when they start to put the plan together.
Sure.
We then go to what I've noted as the Hind End of Space.
Okay.
Uhura is somewhere terrible.
Yeah, she pulls a gun on her colleague.
Well, first of all, she listens to him talking garbage for 2 minutes.
Yeah.
About how it's okay for someone like her whose career is winding down to be stuck out here, but he has ambitions and he wants excitement. Now,
I think this might be, I can't remember, but this is Jose Ferrer's son. What do you call him? Miguel Ferrer, yes. A little Colombo connection there with Jose Ferrer. But he is also the cousin of George Clooney.
That's true. He was in RoboCop.
Yeah. The son of Rosemary Clooney. He's in RoboCop, yeah. He was in quite a few things. And also, an obscure one here, his first wife was the blonde lesbian at the start of Basic Instinct.
Okay.
So Sharon Stone's girlfriend.
Right.
Who I used to really quite fancy.
Oh, he beat you to it.
He certainly did. But he's dead now.
So now's your chance.
That's his ex.
Oh, right, okay. Anyhow, just as Uhura tells him to be careful what he wishes for, Kirk, McCoy and Sulu arrive and they put him in a closet.
Do they, yeah?
Well, they say they're going to. Or Uhura says they're going to.
Is that a sort of joke about being in the closet, coming out the closet?
No, she's literally just putting him in a closet.
Yeah, I know, but whenever you use that term, coming out in the closet, out the closet, I don't know, is there a...
I don't think there is here.
There's a guy maybe gay in real life or something, I don't know.
I don't think so. I think it's just a line.
Right, okay.
She points her phaser at him, marches him off and tells Kirk she will meet them at the rendezvous and gives them her best wishes as they beam out. And I should add here, we don't see her again until the very end.
No.
But in the novelisation, what happens here is she escapes and goes to the Vulcan embassy where Sarek gives her sanctuary and takes her to Vulcan. Is
any of that in the director's cut? I mean, again, I'm assuming we're just both watching the standard.
As far as I know, there's only one cut of this one.
Okay.
So we see her again on Vulcan, and it's never explained how she got there, but that's what the novel says about it.
On the bridge, they arrive to be met by Scotty and Chekhov, and Kirk lets them know that Only he and McCoy need to go on this mission. They're not obliged to come with them.
No, but they say they're going to stay. There was a nice exterior shot at the opening of this scene. They start to pull away, and the Admiral comes on comms ordering Kirk to surrender the vessel.
Yes, however, Chekhov is told to ignore this request by Kirk. On the Excelsior, the captain is...
self-manicuring.
Yeah, yes, I think he's in his bed.
Yes.
He's puzzled to get a yellow alert.
Well, they're in space talk. Yeah, it makes sense. To be fair.
Yeah. However, he gets up when told the Enterprise is being stolen.
Indeed. The Enterprise then is approaching closed space doors as the fancy-looking Excelsior pursues.
Yeah, we cut between the Excelsior, Starfleet Control and the bridge as the Enterprise approaches these closed doors. But at the last second, they open and they safely pass through into space. Why did these doors open?
Scotty opened them.
Can you do that?
He's hacked the system and opened them. Yes.
Right. Okay.
And there's a nod to this in the second of the Abrams movies, Into Darkness, where Scotty opens the door to let someone come on board a ship from space in the very last second. The same sort of idea.
Okay. They then deploy full impulse power.
They do. The Excelsior, however, is preparing its tractor beam and is ready to stop them.
He's quite smarmy. He's overly confident.
Yes. And again, talking about the novelisation, but it's implied that he used his influence to take the command when it was intended for Sulu originally, so people are not happy with him.
Right, okay.
For that reason.
He communicates and warns Kirk that his career will be over if he carries on. But he ignores this and they warp off.
They do, but the Excelsior is ready to follow.
However, it grinds to a halt. Again, a little bit like the movie cliche where they've cut the brakes or they've done something to the car and all of a sudden it can't go and you're what's going on here?
It's great to see it on this scale.
Yeah, or the wheels fall off.
Yeah, clearly Scotty's been sabotaging when he's meant to be working.
In fact, no, I'll go for the Goonies where Brand tries to take his bike and the tyres have all been let down.
Right, that's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Enterprise is on its way to Genesis and it looks like nobody is going to stop it.
Kirk, he then ironically says that he will, I don't know if it's ironic or not, but he says or sarcastically says he will recommend them all for promotion. Not the type of thing you've got to get a promotion for being part of a...
Well, I think he says on whatever fleet we're serving in.
Mm-hmm, yeah. On Genesis, it is now blizzard conditions when, quite disturbingly, Savick and Marcus come across a whimpering, naked boy huddled in the snow.
Savick Dwimish, Coop Stareben.
The Genesis wave. His cells could have been regenerated.
Captain, this is Savick. Come in, please.
Yes, Savick, go ahead.
We have found the life sign. It is a Vulcan child, perhaps 8 to 10 Earth years of age.
A child?
How did he get there?
It is Dr. Marcus's opinion that that the Genesis effect has in some way regenerated Captain Spock.
Savick, that's extraordinary. What would you like to do next?
Request permission to beam aboard immediately.
Savick, does Dr. Marcus think there could be any chance of radioactive contamination? No.
None that he can detect, sir.
All the same, I'm going to advise Starfleet and get instructions.
I'm sure Starfleet would approve, sir.
Probably true, but let's do it by the book.
Stand by on this channel. Go.
Starfleet Command, this is USS Grissom on subspace, coded channel 98.8. Come in, please.
Savick, we're going to do this by the book. Do you appreciate that by the book means don't go banging the kids?
She obviously doesn't get that message.
No.
They find at this point that their signal is being jammed and the Klingon ship with Krug in command appears ominously behind them.
Yeah, you see ominous. It's very ominous because it proceeds to blow them up despite Krug asking for only their engine to be attacked.
Indeed, Savick is told the Grissom is under attack, but as you say, it's very quickly destroyed and Krug's not happy about this.
No, he kills his helmsman as he wanted prisoners, and then threatens Torg, who wants to speak.
Yes, but he's got good news.
What's that?
There are other life signs on the planet.
Down in Genesis, unaware of what has happened, Saavik is trying to communicate with her ship, but is able to put two and two together when she gets no response, and then realises they will also be targets.
Yeah, so she urges Spock Jr. and David to hurry, as the enemy will be on its way.
On the Enterprise bridge, they are about 3 hours from Genesis, and scans show that they are not being pursued.
There's an odd moment here when McCoy again speaks in Spock's voice.
It's very odd, yeah.
And giving the result of a scan, which causes Kirk to make a double take.
I think a few of them look around, yeah.
Indeed. Down on the planet, 3 Klingons are hunting for these survivors.
Whilst Saavik stops and asks Marcus to admit that the planet has not become what he'd hoped for. There's a time and place for saying "I told you so" or getting,
yeah, it's right now, according to Saavik.
Yeah, he accepts this and explains that he used protomatter in the Genesis Matrix.
It's an experimental gobbledygook that it was unsafe.
Not only unsafe, but unethical as well.
Indeed. She points out that his impatience has already cost lives and more will follow, and he looks a bit sheepish.
Not just that, she's on to say that just like his father, he changed the rules. Again, beat a man when he's down.
Talking about the Kobayashi Maru there, obviously, that she's still got a sore point about because she lost it.
She really needs to let that go. She's never stopped about it.
It's only been a couple of weeks, to be fair.
Yeah.
The Klingons at this point find Spock's torpedo where the microbes have become giant snake-like worm things.
Yeah, one almost, he allows one to, I suppose...
Krug does, yes.
Yeah, to attack him and wrap itself around him. He's very confident that he can strangle it.
It would be funny if he couldn't.
It would be brilliant.
He just drops
shoot it, made a mistake. Meant to do that.
Then he does manage to kill it with his bare hands and it explodes. I think, is it green on the inside?
Yeah.
Purple? I can't remember.
They then stand and watch as darkness arrives in a matter of seconds.
It does. Over at the other side of Genesis, or the other point where Saavik, Spock Jr. and David are, it's now dark as well, as Saavik tends to Spock Jr., who looks a bit older.
Mm-hmm. Before talking to Marcus, where they agree that the planet is aging quickly, along with Spock, who is apparently joined to it. That's quite a leap.
Well, talking about surges at this point, yeah. Saavik notes that this will be bad for Spock, who must have sex soon. He's not expressed any desire to have sex, or indeed any problem, but she's
right in there.
Right ahead
I
of the
know a
game.
Solution. No, it's just I've got a sprained ankle. Well, where I come from, I come from the same place as you.
Yeah. At this point, they get a reading on the Klingons pursuing them, and David heads off to try and hold them up.
On the bridge, Chekhov picks up a warning about them sent to the Grissom.
But no response.
This perturbs Kirk, who doesn't know how the Grissom is going to react to them, and so instructs Chekhov to break radio silence and send the captain his compliment.
At this point, McCoy notes that he would rather have given Spock a kidney than part of his brain.
Yeah, I mean, I think so, yeah.
Yeah, especially as in the next movie, McCoy regrows somebody's kidney with a pill.
Is that a spoiler?
Yeah, it's not a big spoiler.
Okay, cheers. Chekhov reports that there is no response on any channels, and
he's
is told
just
to
doing the Uhura impression.
Yeah, just keep trying then. Okay. Back then in Genesis.
They should check these radios work on the Enterprise. Yeah, there's another surge, and Spock is now in his late teens or early 20s, quite conveniently for Saavik, who notes that he needs sex now.
According to IMDb, it's Spock at 17.
Okay.
So not really mid-teens, I would say.
Yeah, he's going through puberty. Or he's just gone through puberty, and he now is randy.
Yeah, they start rubbing their fingers, and
it reminded me of the Romulan commander and adult Spock in that episode, remember?
Yep, but she's all perfectly fine.
Yeah, well, that was fine, but it's the same.
How old is Saavik meant to be here?
I reckon early 20s.
See, it's not so bad, but she looks older, that's the thing. She looks about 30.
Yeah, I mean, she might be pushing 30, but I don't think so.
Well, I suppose, I mean, here's the thing. She is a cadet, right? But
she's called lieutenant. So.
Yeah, and to go through that sort of training, I'd imagine it could take years before you're... It's not like you're 19... Yeah, it could be 5 years worth of...
Yeah, she could be late 20s.
Yeah. And who knows what age she started at?
Well, indeed. And Spock, technically here, is only about a week old, depending on when you start counting. Or, alternatively, he's in his 50s.
Yeah. That's her excuse.
That's her defence.
My lord.
But anyway, yes, she sees only one solution and she proceeds to implement it.
Yeah. Back up on the bridge, they enter the Genesis sector and we return to the Klingon ship.
Yes, the Klingon ship recognises the Enterprise and cloaks while the dog thing looks quite hungry.
You see, I mentioned earlier, I would have looked for more from this. It's obviously...
yeah, it's kind of an ominous sort of setup, and then...
But not just that, they must have spent a bit of money on creating this creature, the special effects.
It's very Tim Burton-esque, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I quite liked it.
It was good, yeah. Back in the bridge, Chekhov thinks he saw a ship for an instant, which Kirk thinks may have been the Grissom, and so orders a hailing frequency, which obviously gets no response.
That doesn't make sense. They would be able to see the Grissom. It doesn't have a cloaking device.
Yeah, I mean, is a cloaking device something you have to build into the ship? Or can
yes.
So you can't just pick one up?
Well, remember they stole the Romulans one and that was the only one that they had, so whether it's not been mentioned again that they've been able to incorporate them.
Yeah, that's a good point, isn't it? In any case, on Genesis,
the Klingons capture a post-coital Saavik and Spock.
Yeah, but just before that, she picks up this communication on one of the
yes, she hears. They know that the Enterprise is there.
But before she can answer, as you say, she and Spock are grabbed by the Klingons and are thrown down beside Marcus at the feet of Krug.
Stop! I've come a long way for the power of Genesis, and what do I find? A weakling human, a Vulcan boy, and a woman.
My lord, we are survivors of a doomed expedition. This planet will destroy itself in hours. The Genesis experiment is a failure.
A failure? The most powerful destructive force ever created. You will tell me the secret of the Genesis torpedo.
I have no knowledge.
Then I hope pain is something you enjoy. Drew, quick! I order no interruptions.
But sir, Federation starship approaching.
Bring me up.
Grissom, this is Enterprise calling. Do you read?
Grissom, this is Enterprise calling. Please come in.
My vehicle!
Say again, Grissom. This is Enterprise. Admiral Kirk calling. Captain Estefano, Lieutenant 7. Please come in.
Report status.
We are cloaked. Enemy closing on impulse power range 5,000 kilograms.
Good. It's just a turn of luck I have been waiting for.
I found the music a bit strange in some scenes, and the Klingon scenes in particular. This was a little bit not quite right, I thought.
Yeah, not quite appropriate.
Yeah, like it's almost a military thing.
No, I mean, that's a military.
Yeah, but I didn't fit with what they were doing.
A little bit too not ominous enough. It was almost like, uplifting.
Like it was a parade or something.
Yes, yeah. Anyway, on the Enterprise, Chekhov has still nothing on the scanner, and so Kirk asks for a short range scan and visuals on the main viewer.
Which he is able to spot a distortion that the scanners can't pick up with his bare eyes.
Of course, he's Kirk.
And it goes to red alert.
Meanwhile, Krug is sneaking closer and tells his gunner to make sure they target the engine only this time. Now remember what happened to the last...
You got the message, yeah. Kirk thinks that the Klingons will need to decloak to fire, which is what his entire plan rests on.
And in fact, that is the case. They decloak and the Enterprise is able to strike first and hard.
Kills the Targ dog thing.
Yeah.
But they can't get their shields up.
No, as the system is apparently overloaded, and because Scotty had not anticipated combat. He's a bit of an idiot. I mean, you're going out here to... Surely you're going out into space. There's always
all sorts, yeah.
I mean, if you think about every other week, Scotty, there is some sort of problem. Oh, I'll be fine this time. Nothing ever happens. It's boring.
We're now stuck in a situation where the two ships facing off don't know how damaged each other are. So Kirk calls Krug to propose a truce, telling him he has 2 minutes to surrender as his presence is an act of war, but Krug reads him like a book.
Yeah, he thinks he's hiding something and responds by telling Kirk not to lecture him, as the Federation has become a gang of intergalactic criminals when they developed the Genesis device, or when they deployed it. And I think that's a good point.
It is, and he tells Kirk it is he who must surrender. He explains about their 3 prisoners and says he will execute them if no surrender is forthcoming.
Down in Genesis, Krug has allowed Kirk to communicate with David.
Yes, and Saavik, who tell him about the failure of Genesis and the fact that they've recovered Spock. Although not in such terms.
No, I don't know why this is sort of coded, but I think he's referred to as a Vulcan scientist of his acquaintance.
Which Kirk understands.
Of course. She is also able to tell him that he's not himself and is aging rapidly, like the planet. Before Marcus is put on comms and he admits that he's made a mistake, but he tells him, don't surrender, as Genesis doesn't work and he doesn't think they will kill them because of this. I'm not sure of his logic here.
No, he's not thought that through, so Krug gives the order to kill one of them and they go to stab Saavik in the back.
But the heroic David goes to her, jumps to hit her defence, and for his trouble takes a lethal, fatal knife to the gut.
Well, at least he redeemed himself somewhat.
Well, not really. He's sacrificed one life, but at the same time he has basically threatened, or he's caused an entire planet to be destroyed.
Nobody lives on that planet.
Still, when a planet is destroyed, the impact... Have you heard of the butterfly effect, right?
That's the large scale one. Okay, yes, so a shocked Kirk falls to the floor distraught and agrees to surrender after throwing some abuse at Krug. Calls him, "You Klingon bastard, you killed my son," I believe.
Yeah, he says that 3 times.
Yeah, he's very upset.
However, a calm...
Krug doesn't care.
Yeah, he merely tells him, right, there's 2 more, and you need to surrender or they're both getting it.
Meanwhile, Kirk and Sulu are coming up with a plan, despite their grief, or Kirk's grief. Sulu tells Kirk the bird of prey has a crew of about 12, all of whom that aren't on the planet are going to be sent over to take the Enterprise, because they anticipate the Enterprise to be fully crewed.
Yeah, now, Sulu says that the Klingon ship will have a crew of about 12 officers and men. Does he mean 12 of each, so 24, or 12 in total?
No, 12 in total, the officers and men, yeah.
Okay.
So they're going to send probably 10 or 9 guys to try and take out 400 people from the Enterprise.
Kirk swears that they're not done yet, they're not beat, before he communicates with Krug and promises no dirty tricks when they are beamed aboard.
Indeed. But he then plays a dirty trick.
He does. So, with the help of Chekhov and Scotty, he accesses the computer and enters a self-destruct code with a 1-minute countdown.
Yes, and as the Klingons beam in to take the Enterprise, the crew beam out.
It's a bit of an old switcheroo.
Indeed.
Krug, however, he remains. He's no fool. He remains on his own ship, so he doesn't come down.
Yeah, he stays there. But when he speaks with his crew on the Enterprise, he learns something concerning. And
yeah, he realises what's going on, but it's too late. I think he shouts for them to get out, but too late.
Yeah, they're all killed as the Enterprise self-destructs, and the crew watch from the surface of the planet as the remains burn up in the atmosphere.
Yeah, it streaks across the sky in a fiery ball. Now, I was a bit dubious about this. It didn't... In the past, we've seen the ships exploding into nothing.
Yep.
This looked to me like it was a half-hearted attempt. Like, we might bring it back for another movie. So it was really damaged, but still not in pieces.
Yeah, no, it's destroyed.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the original special effects had it just exploding in space, but they realised that would envelop the Klingon ship as well, so they had to revise the way it looked so it would destroy it a different way.
Okay. Kirk turns, I think, to McCoy and says, "My God, what have I done?"
And McCoy is positive.
It's quite a cheesy line.
Well, once again, he's turned certain death into a fighting chance to live. Yeah. I think that refers back to something he said in the previous movie.
Okay.
Kirk talked about always staving off death, always turning death into a chance to live.
Sure.
Or maybe the first, one of the first 2.
Sulu takes readings and points in the direction of the life forms as a storm brews. Spock, meanwhile, is suffering greatly and doesn't take kindly to being grabbed by a Klingon who he launches through the air before he starts to transform in front of the astounded Saavik and another Klingon.
Indeed, and Kirk arrives, taking out the remaining Klingon with his phaser, before tending to David's lifeless body.
Yeah, he then asks Saavik what happened, and she explains he gave his life to save the others. I don't think he did. I mean,
they were going about to kill Saavik, and he...
Well, yeah, but I don't think he... It wasn't like, yeah, I'll die for this. He was just trying to... Because he knew he was...
Well, he didn't intend to die. No. But he was willing to die, I suppose.
But he probably thought if she was dying, he's next. So we can't assume that it was...
Selfless.
Selfless, you know. Anyhow.
McCoy reports that Spock's mind is blank at this stage.
Yeah, it's empty. He's lost all his marbles.
McCoy's got them. Kirk finds a Klingon communicator and contacts Krug, telling him that they have the secret of Genesis but need to be beamed up before they'll share it. Much like he tried with V'ger.
Yes, but as he waits for a response, Krug himself makes an appearance and beams up all the crew with the exception of Kirk and Spock.
Yes, Kirk asks him to take Spock as well, but he refuses because Kirk wanted him to.
Yeah, well, that's...
If you want it, then I'm not doing it.
Yeah, in this situation, don't show your hand. Yeah. He demands Genesis and is apparently content for all of them to die if he doesn't get it.
A hand-to-hand battle ensues.
We've seen this before. We've seen that Krug is hugely strong.
Yes.
Kirk should have absolutely no chance against him.
Well, he doesn't look like he's got much of a chance. He's being pummeled.
Yeah.
However, Krug makes a mistake.
Well, they end up on the edge of a rock overlooking this flowing lava. But just like a Thingy cartoon, a Roadrunner cartoon, the tip breaks off and Krug falls and he's hanging on. Again, this is another movie cliche, isn't it?
Yeah, Kirk tries to save him.
He says, yeah, take my hand, but rather than doing that, he grabs at Kirk's ankle.
Yes, trying to bring him to him out so we both die. Yeah.
And I quite liked how Kirk reacted.
Just kicked him off.
3 times. And I think he was speaking with each third. It was like, get off.
It was nicely done.
It's a good face kicking to the death, or to his death.
Yes, Krug dies at this point, and Kirk returns to Spock as the sun arises. The planet appears to be on the brink of collapse, but Spock has resumed his familiar appearance.
No, at this point we don't see that. I mean, he has, but we don't. It's hidden.
It's hidden from us, but yes. Kirk shouts to Maltz, the last Klingon on board the ship, through the communicator, and he and Spock are beamed up.
Yeah, now here's the thing. Does he puts on he shouts in Klingon.
Yes.
So he's pretending to be Krug.
Yes.
That's okay. It's a long shot, hasn't it? Yeah.
It works.
And he is able to surprise him by arriving with his phaser drawn, and with the help of the rest of the gang, they take control of the ship.
Yes. Maltz says he doesn't deserve to live, so Kirk promises to kill him later.
Well, that's it. Kirk gives him a choice: either help or die.
Yeah.
He said, I don't deserve to live, and he sort of calls Kirk's bluff here, because Kirk isn't the killing type and he doesn't have to.
Yeah.
I mean, he's killed more of his own crew over the years, and he's done Klingons.
It takes Kirk says he'll kill him later, but he doesn't actually kill him, which is very upsetting for Maltz. Chekhov and Scotty take a wee minute to figure out how to make the ship go, and Sulu thinks it has full power. That suggests to me that Maltz has been fixing it, while the rest of the folk have been trying to kill people because they were disabled.
Yeah.
Anyhow, they make their escape as the planet explodes, and Kirk bids a farewell to his son.
He then orders best speed to Vulcan, and he admits that he lied about killing the Klingon when he orders him to be held below.
Yeah, he's very unhappy.
Sick bay-ish?
Yeah, some kind of medical facility on the Klingon ship.
McCoy is alone with the now normally aged Spock. That was fortunate that they got him back just to the right age for him, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he pleads with his unconscious friend to help him, but after getting no response, he decides to open up.
Spock, for God's sakes, talk to me. You stuck this damn thing in my head, remember? Remember? Now tell me what to do with it. Help me. I'm going to tell you something that I never thought I'd ever hear myself say. But it seems I've missed you I don't know if I could stand to lose you again.
Listening to that clip there, I think I might have mentioned it before. That reminded me a little bit of the Maniac Cop theme or music, the score. And I think that there was a connect. I think that the composer may have
Horner.
Yeah, was it Horner or was it someone else?
It was Horner on this.
Yeah, might have been Horner.
Okay.
Or someone else in the music department.
Yeah,
like
some connection.
Anyway,
on Vulcan.
Uhura, she's there.
Yeah, as we explained earlier.
Informs him that Spock is on his way, and he tells her to tell Kirk that they will be ready for them.
Sulu lands the Klingon ship on the planet.
Expertly, yes.
And the other 6 bring Spock out on a stretcher.
What follows is a dramatic ceremony where Sarek asks for refusion, even though the officiating Talar, she's a priestess.
Is she the same one from the mock time? I don't think she is.
Don't think so, no. She reminds him that this hasn't been performed for ages, and even then it might just be a legend.
Yeah, this is unusual.
Not only unusual, but she says it's illogical. And this is, I quite like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sarek says that he doesn't operate purely on a logical basis where Spock is concerned.
Yeah, it was kind of nice.
Although it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense in terms of consistency.
No. Anyhow, McCoy is asked if he consents to have the Katra removed from his body and returned to Spock.
And he's warned that there's a high risk, just as much a risk to him as to Spock. And
he could die.
I quite like that he's thinking, yeah, you're telling me this now. I mean, you're putting him in the spot. I mean, I can't really say no, can I?
Everyone's here.
Yeah, I'll do it, but I'm not really happy about this.
Yeah. He lies down on the slab next to Spock's and the ritual begins.
Yes, and then time passes. We see them all sort of looking on anxiously, and I think it's perhaps in the next day, the next sunrise,
sure,
when a gong is sounded. And we see McCoy walking back from the transfusion to the table.
Yes, as Spock is robed in white.
He initially walks by. Kirk doesn't acknowledge him, but then he stops. He turns. He takes down his hood.
Well, before that, Sarek speaks to Kirk.
He
tells Kirk that he lost his own son to save his, and he thanks him.
Yes, and Kirk says that if he hadn't tried, it would have cost him his soul.
Yes.
So Spock then walks by, stops, turns, lowers his hood, and acknowledges the old crew before facing Kirk.
My father says that you have been my friend. You came back for me.
You would have done the same for me.
Why would you do this?
Because the needs of the one outweighed the needs of the many.
I have been, and ever shall be, your friend.
Yes. Yes, Spock.
The ship. Out of danger.
You saved the ship. You saved us all. Don't you remember?
Jim. Your name is Jim.
Yes.
Spock goes on to acknowledge the rest of the crew, and the sun sets on Vulcan.
They all gather around like the end of Teen Wolf.
And we get a message up saying the adventure continues.
So what was the situation with that? Had they been the next movie been approved, agreed,
I guess
signed
so,
off?
It continues right from this point.
Yeah. Well, I suppose it could say that, and it's not a legal requirement.
Yeah, that could just mean
James Bond will return unless, of course, he has been Me Too'd or cancelled or something.
Yeah, and
which
doesn't make any money in this
possible.
one.
Yeah.
So that's the end. Your overall impressions?
As we said at the start of the show, I think we both agree this is the best of the movies so far.
I think so. Just
enjoyable. I mean, if you're a hardcore Star Trek fan and you're looking at the whole the universe of it and the mythology and the consistency of this and that. And maybe it's not the best, but just for pure enjoyment. Just, it's not too taxing.
It's just a romp.
It's a romp. There's Klingons or baddies and they're up to all sorts of nonsense. And yeah.
It was good. I really enjoyed it.
It was perfectly enjoyable, yeah.
Do you have a favourite scene or a moment?
I think he probably gets a bit of criticism. I'm guessing you might get a bit of criticism, but I like Christopher Lloyd's performance. I like all of his scenes. He was good, even though he was Doc Brown.
I liked his dog.
Yeah, his dog was good, yeah. And I liked McCoy being possessed.
Yes.
That was interesting as well. And there were a couple of nice little throwaway lines, little bits of humour that didn't overdo it.
Yeah.
That just elevated the movie slightly.
Any bits you didn't like at all?
Apart from the underage sex?
Well, they didn't show that.
You did.
Well,
I mean, that's how they do it, isn't it? They're rubbing the fingers together. I mean, what else do you do?
Don't know, there's probably Vulcans too.
Oh.
No. You didn't like the bar scene?
No, I thought it was a rip-off. I didn't say I didn't like it. I did like it, yeah.
Is there anything unexpected for you in the way it wrapped up, or do you think that was fairly...
No, nothing unexpected. I mean, I'm guessing that Spock's coming back. Well, I knew that anyway, but you would, even if you're watching this for the first time at the time, I think it's pretty obvious what to expect. Search for Spock, you find Spock, and everyone's happy again.
And reset the button at the end.
Yeah, no, it was entirely predictable in a good way.
Yeah. Some trivia?
Sure.
Originally released in June of 1984, directed by Leonard Nimoy himself. We discussed his career in more detail in the podcast for Turnabout Intruder in season 3, so you can listen to
the
that.
Columbo podcast. If anyone likes Columbo and isn't aware of it, there's a Columbo podcast out there that might tickle your bits.
Yes, what was the name of his episode?
A Stitch in Crime,
yes,
of course.
So that podcast, you'll hear more about him.
Dr. Barry Mayfield.
With his little soiree.
Yes. Cream
soda included.
Yeah. Breaking an egg and a boiled egg on a...
Indeed, on the murder weapon.
Yeah.
Harv Bennett, credited as the writer. We discussed him last week on the Wrath of Khan podcast, so go back and listen to that. If you want to hear more, Robin Curtis took on the role of Saavik. This was her first Star Trek role, which she would reprise in the 4th movie, and she played a different character in a 2-part episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. Outside of the Star Trek universe, she appeared in shows like Knight Rider, MacGyver, Babylon 5 and Murder, She Wrote, before transitioning to a real estate career in the early 2000s, and she's now 65 years old. Merritt Buttrick returned as David Marcus. You can hear more about him again on the podcast for The Wrath of Khan. Robert Hooks played the Starfleet commander Admiral Morrow. This was his only Star Trek role, but he's perhaps best known for his work on 1972's Trouble Man and on the 60s cop series NYPD.
Blue.
He also appeared in shows like Dynasty, TJ Hooker and 21 Jump Street, and he's now 84 years old. Christopher Lloyd, your favourite. He played Krug or Kruge, the Klingon captain. This was his only Star Trek role, but he's probably best known for his work on films like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, The Addams Family and the Back to the Future series, all of which were subsequent to this appearance. He also appeared on TV shows like Taxi, Road to Avonlea, Spin City and The Michael J. Fox Show. He remains active. He's now approaching 250 film and TV credits, and he's 83 years old.
Yeah, still very active. You see him in all sorts of...
Anything to do with Back to the Future, he's in it.
It's good, yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah.
A toy that needs a voice, he's on it. Computer game that needs a voice, he's on it. As parody, he'll do that as well.
Quite right. I don't think these people, they want to distance themselves.
Yeah, they think they're better than
exactly,
it.
Yeah. No, he embraces it. He owns it.
Indeed. Stephen Liska and John Larocquette, let's talk about them. They were the Klingons Torg and Maltz. Liska has a Columbo connection. He appeared as a casino manager opposite Tyne Daly in A Bird in the Hand. He's also appeared on shows like Murder, She Wrote, Ellie Law and The Young and the Restless, as well as showing up in Lethal Weapon 4 as a detective. Larocquette is perhaps best known as the voice of the opening narration for the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and some of its sequels.
Mm-hmm.
He's also appeared in shows like Night Court, The Practice and Boston Legal opposite William Shatner. This was his only Star Trek role, and he's now 74 years old.
I think he's pretty big in the States. Not so well known over here, really, but I think he's
yeah.
Apparently
he doesn't like horror movies. He's never watched the Texas Chainsaw films that he's narrating. Dame Judith Anderson came out of retirement to play the Vulcan Priestess at the urging of her nephew. This was her only Star Trek role. She was previously Oscar nominated for her work on Rebecca in 1940, and she appeared in classic films like Cat on a Hot Tin Roof and Laura. She died in 1992 at the age of 94, making her one of Star Trek's 19th century contributors. James Sicking played Captain Styles of the Excelsior. This is his only Star Trek role. He's another Columbo connection. He was an uncredited cast member in 1984's Publisher Perish opposite Jack Cassidy. He also appeared in films like The Pelican Brief and Outland, as well as series like Hill Street Blues and Curb Your Enthusiasm. He is now 87 years old, but presuming we don't jinx him, he'll turn 88 a couple of days after this is published. Branscobb Richmond and Alan Miller also had small roles in the movie.
I know those two, yeah.
Richmond played one of the Klingon officers, while Miller was a Federation alien. Richmond performed stunts on films like Rocky III, Cobra and The Running Man, as well as acting in TV shows like Airwolf, Knight Rider and T.J. Hooker. Miller made a number of appearances on Murder, She Wrote, as well as working on other shows like ER, Law and Order, Mad Men and Mrs. Columbo, making him a near connection.
I remember the Murder, She Wrote that he was in. He was
in about 5 Murder, She Wrote.
Yeah, but the one that I know him for, I think it's called Dead Heat. Anyway, it was set in American around a American football team,
right?
Which also starred at the time Bruce Jenner. He was the main star of that episode.
Cool.
Who is now what's her name now? Caitlin. That's it.
Richmond, now 66 years old. Miller's 93. Few more minor Columbo connections. Paul Sorensen played a captain, having previously appeared as a police pilot in 1974 as A Friend Indeed. Benji Bancroft played a Vulcan priest, having appeared in Columbo on 3 occasions, uncredited. He was in Dagger of the Mind, The Most Dangerous Match, and he was in Now You See Him. Behind the scenes, 3 tracks by the late 4-time Oscar winner Johnny Mercer were used in this film, while his lyrics were twice used in episodes of Columbo.
Oh, there you go.
Charles Correll was a cinematographer in the film, having carried out the same role for 1975's Forgotten Lady. Randall Robinson was a first assistant camera on the film, before later operating a camera for 1989's Columbo Goes to the Guillotine.
Quite the Columbo connections this weekend. You really put the effort in.
Cameron Burney, best known as a production designer on Quantum Leap, worked in the art department on this movie before similarly being art director for Murder, Smoke and Shadows and Columbo Goes to the Guillotine again. They were both 1989. Some more trivia. The destruction of the Enterprise was not in the original draft for this film, but was added later when Herve Bennett and Leonard Nimoy realised they needed a dramatic high point in the third act. Nimoy's return as Spock was a closely guarded secret during the filming of the movie. In the opening credits he's not listed, but there is an exaggerated pause between William Shatner's name and that of DeForest Kelley when it comes up, so you can maybe look out for that. There was a big fire on set which destroyed part of the Genesis planet, and it had to be tackled by people working there, including a fully costumed William Shatner, who recalls in one of his books, I think one of the ones that you read actually, that he was chiefly concerned about filming overrunning as a result, causing problems with his T.J. Hooker schedule. Ronald Reagan, his diaries for 1984 note that he watched the film in the White House but didn't like it. Ooh.
Did he say why?
He said it wasn't much good.
Alright.
But he did watch Star Trek 4 a couple of years later.
What's your thoughts on that?
Well, we'll get to that.
Right.
Kirstie Alley didn't return as Savick due to salary demands. Whether she deliberately priced herself out of it or just...
Either way, I'm not doing that. I'm now on $250,000 per episode at Cheers.
Yeah, I'm not doing this.
I'm not doing this, yeah.
You should have signed me up for 3 movies to start with.
Yeah.
Early drafts of the script actually featured Romulans rather than Klingons as the primary adversaries.
Okay.
Christopher Lloyd... This is good. Apparently he didn't quite grasp the idea of the communicator, and whenever the script called for him to talk to the ship, would shout into the air and had to be told repeatedly to stop.
Okay.
The self-destruct codes that they used to destroy the Enterprise were exactly the same ones used in the episode Let That Be Your Last Battlefield, so it hadn't obviously been updated in the time in between. And next week we're going to take a look at the 4th feature film, Star Trek 4 The Voyage Home, a time travel adventure. It should be up your alley.
Because I've had Christopher Lloyd for that one.
Well, indeed. Too late for that now.
Okay, anything else?
That's us.
Until then,
cheerio.
Bye bye.